All right, so we're going to rearrange things a tad here for today's episode. I'm joined by Rebecca Liddon, who is our Director of Education here at the Jai Institute for Parenting. She trains many of our students and graduates. She is the creator of the curriculum that we use to train pediatricians and therapists and educators and parents who are so passionate about parenting that they desire to become a parent coach. So Rebecca is like the wisdom holder of everything that we do here at Jai. And the session that you're going to be listening to today is Rebecca coaching our beloved Destini Ann. Destini, of course, is a Jai graduate. She is our spokesmama. She has been immersed in our work and our sister in creating peace on the planet for years. And so rather than jump right into the coaching session, I'm going to have a little conversation with Rebecca first, because there's some contextualizing that I think will help you get the most out of this session. Number one, Rebecca and Destini have worked together for a long time. There's a depth of relationship here. Number two, they speak a common language. And number three, they have access to practices and exercises, which you're going to hear in this episode, that I want you to be comfortable with, so that maybe you play along and do some inner processing as you're listening with these two incredible women. So Rebecca, hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, great. So in the coaching container Destiny and I co-created together, this is a representation, as you said, Kiva, of a coach and client who have rapport, relationship, and a foundation of common knowledge, common language, which opens a lot of doorways for deeper processing. And what I really appreciate about this session, that I think no matter where you are at in your parenting journey, everyone can benefit from this example, because it highlights something enormously vital for us to understand as parents and practitioners, which is we are here to support our clients to be able to access the education, skills, strategies, and tools when they need them most. And we know as human beings and our children, we can educate and lecture and remind them and have all of the charts and printables and read all of the books and go to all of the trainings. But until what you are learning cognitively and behaviorally has space in the nervous system and the limbic system, which is the emotional part of the brain, everything you learn isn't going to be accessible and available for you. And that's where parents feel really stuck and frustrated, and then they give up on this practice. And therefore, we have a really beautiful analogy here at Jai called dropping an anchor. And this is our body-based techniques that we invite our students who are in training to become coaches, as well as our clients, to practice on a daily basis. And to keep it very simple, dropping an anchor, think of it like a visualization of, in the moment, you're dropping your anchor down to the bottom of the ocean, and it's tethering you to presence. Presence is the foundational developmental task that we are inviting our students and clients to practice. It is from there that all of the other more sophisticated tools flow: empathy, curiosity, passion, all of our communication, all of the playful parenting tips and tricks that we love to learn. It all flows from presence, because it's our presence that is the greatest tool in our toolbox. Because our children rely on our quality of presence to signal to their nervous system, it's safe for your upstairs brain to be online right if our children experience a lack of presence in our proximity, we're there, but we're not there emotionally or psychologically, that is hardwired into them to pick up unconsciously, and their brain shuts off and they go into a primitive and emotional reactive state. And this may need to be rewound and listened to a few times if this is brand new for some of you listening, and it's worth contemplating and rewinding. So with Destiny, what I was working on was the anchoring. So I teach an analogy where we try to drop our anchor, we try to gain presence in those really challenging, tricky, high conflict, high tension scenarios with our kids. But unless there's space for the anchor to actually drop and hit the bottom, it's just going to bob on the top of the water. And it's not going to actually serve you. And that's really frustrating. You're doing all your breathing and your positive affirmations and you're doing your tools and none of it's working. It's so frustrating. And you're just stuck on a loop of reactivity. Your child imitates your reactivity, and there's the cycle pattern. And we are pattern activists here. So we need to understand the map of how to truly change. And just like with children, it's not applied behavioral analysis. It's not, don't do this, do this. It's deeper rewiring. And although it may seem a little mystical and strange to listen to and to witness, if we were to, you called me the wisdom keeper, I self-identify as the poet. We need to keep things beautiful. This can be really beautiful. This can be profound and creative. It's also very, very, very scientific. So in this example, I'm inviting Destiny to shift into a deeper processing space where we are, one, getting in touch with her unconscious activations, meaning the body. So things that are stored in our brain and body before we are verbal, before we are 2 or 3, and we're starting to create those working memories with verbalization associated to it. Very young aspects of our experience. And those very young aspects of our experiences show up today in visceral responses like tension in the chest, tightness in the jaw, clutching of the fists, wanting to run away, wanting to hide, wanting to book a vacation to Mars and never come home, shrinking, shutting down, stonewalling, all of these reflexive automatic threat responses. And again, when these reflexive automatic threat responses take over, there's no hope for you to grab your tools in those moments. And as parents, it's so vital for us to understand what is really happening when we're triggered. And what is really happening when we're triggered is, in this example, it was sibling conflict. Nobody loves sibling conflict. This is a really hard arena for most parents to show up in leadership, confidence, clarity, and ability to navigate and innovate and believe that everything's going to be okay. It's hard enough for the most present of us. It's especially hard for parents where sibling conflict activates an extreme visceral reaction. So one, going into the body and co-regulating on a body-based level with my client. 2 is going into the emotional aspect of the experience, which you see me activate visualization processes with Destiny, personifying implicit memory, which means feeling memories, things in her upbringing that she felt as a natural consequence of her experience, but never got to process. We personify these emotional memories as parts or characters or archetypes, colors, voices. There's all kinds of creative opportunities here. But why is we are taking what is implicit and making it explicit, meaning we're taking what we don't have understanding and coherency around. Gosh, why does that activate me so much? And we are allowing what has previously been buried to come forward. Destiny shed a tear and said, I didn't know this was here. I didn't know this was here. And we don't, unless there is a skilled practitioner who knows how to slow you down and meet the deeper need. My favorite part about this example was how Destini came into the room saying, I want to talk about how to be proactive and set myself up better for a sibling conflict. And I thought, oh, cool. Like, it's a great idea. That's so helpful. As I said in this video, 95% of conflict and triggers can be gotten ahead of if you're cognizant and aware of setting up environments successfully. And so I'm tracking with her. And then as the facilitator, I'm naming, I think there's something deeper here that needs to be tended to, while also being aware of my lane. I'm not a trauma trained psychotherapist, and I am not in the responsibility of deep, deep, deep processing and trauma resolution with my client, but I can invite opportunities for awareness and integration. And she came with me, and we train our students to only take clients down to a depth in which it's a hell yes. If you don't mind me saying, consent is a hell yes. I'm ready and I'm open and I'm able to meet my coach here. And we arrived at a place where there was more access to how Destini can take care of her own body, heart, and mind, just like I coached you, Kiva. And as I coach all of my clients, how do we take care of your body, your heart, and your mind? Because that is the foundational toolbox before we pick up things like here's what to do, here's what to say in your parenting. We first focus on the parent, and then we go into parenting. And today, all parent. If I had another half an hour, we would have gotten into the parenting and it would have been awesome. So stay
Well,
tuned
and
for
let's
two.
circle back to that after we
Yeah,
listen to the coaching session.
sure.
And I'll just invite you as a listener or a viewer, if you're watching this on YouTube, sit in the silences.
Mm,
Allow Rebecca's invitations to Destini to be invitations for you, because we all have an inner 9-year-old seeking validation and visibility and significance and being seen and heard and cared for and tended to. And so let's all practice together what it feels like to simply sit quietly and pay attention to your body. So
mhm.
here's the session, and we'll be back after you give it a listen.
Hello, Destini. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I'm curious what it is that I can support you with today in your mama practice.
Yes. So I am at this point with my sibling rivalry where I desire to be hands off and am struggling with the proactive part of it because
Mm,
we've got great conflict resolution.
yeah. Okay.
Um, but it's just like, can we have less of this
Mm,
behavior? I,
mm.
I desire that so strongly. It's just all day long. I feel like I'm letting them handle it, and then I'm coming in mediating, and I don't like it. I don't feel good about it at all when it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Two things, two questions for
Mhm.
me. I hear you. A desire for overall less conflict or less need for
Yes,
you to
absolutely.
interject your mediation. Yeah. Okay. So you
Yes, absolutely.
mentioned you're struggling with the proactive part, which I don't know what that means. So I'd love for you to elaborate. Second is you're saying, I don't like how it feels, your
Mhm.
interjection of mediation. So let's start with, can you clarify? I'm not good at the proactive part.
So I don't know if I'm saying I'm not good. I just maybe kind of want to workshop on what I could do to be more intentional about cultivating more peace between the two of them.
Okay. Yeah. I think proactive for me means preventative measures
Yeah,
or action steps.
exactly.
Is
Yeah.
that how you define it?
Yes. absolutely.
Okay. Are you able to articulate in a really tangible, practical way what preventative measures are you not implementing that you want to be? Do you have that articulation available?
No, I don't have that articulation available. I just feel
Okay.
like it's not something I'm intentional about. I'm not intentional about because I don't even know what that would look like
Oh, I
intentionally.
see. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
I'm very reactive. It's once they're bothered by each other that I'm checking in because I'm not sure what to do in
Okay.
advance.
Okay. So there's a longing to workshop what proactivity and prevention would even look like to get ahead of sibling conflict, like unnecessary conflict, if you were able to bring in the right systems or the right techniques at the head of the scenario.
Exactly that.
Yeah. Okay. So I wonder if the discomfort with having to interject with their rivalry, while there's a strong part of you that is longing for them to work it out independently and for you to not be needed in that
Mhm.
way, is the discomfort of your mediation because conflict is uncomfortable in general and it's loud and it's messy? Or is it connected to a voice in your head? Gosh, if I could have set this up better, we wouldn't have to be doing this.
Yeah, I think it's that. I think
Uh-huh.
it's that, but it's not even the voice that comes up when they're in conflict or when we're problems. It's the voice that comes up afterwards when I feel
Oh,
completely drained by the situation.
okay. I
Yeah,
see. Okay.
I don't want to keep doing it.
Yeah, I hear you. You don't want to keep doing it. Yeah.
I'm over.
I'm
I'm over it.
old. Oh.
I'm over
So,
it. Is what I said. I'm sorry.
oh, okay. I thought you said I'm old.
No.
Okay, so just reality checking us and orienting. Do you have a story in your mind that if I were to get the proactive preventative measures in place, then I would not have to interject and mediate conflict, and then I would not be exhausted and drained?
Maybe. I think I have that story often
Mhm.
about things anyway.
Yeah? What do
Could
you
have,
mean?
should have, could have, should
Uh,
have, would have.
yeah, like when, then, and then I'll be happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I lovingly challenge this because we could workshop preventative tools. And I think that that's a really valid, worthwhile avenue for us to spend time in. I tell clients that conflict is 75 to 90% prevention. It's
Yeah.
all patterned and we can get ahead of it. And it's not going to completely erase your need, like
Hmm.
how they're dependent on you. So I'm wondering, like, that part of you that's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm curious about that. If you could speak from that space.
Mm. That space is experiencing shame with the oldest and fear of the mean girl story
Yeah,
playing out.
right, right.
Also, protection for her because of where I identify with where it's coming from and being like that younger, the
Mm,
younger. And then the story is also coming from fear with the youngest of like, I just don't want anybody to take the spark that has been so intentional that I've
yeah,
created in changing how I parent. And I see how much she flourishes because of it. And so there's a part of me
mm,
that's like, you're undoing my work.
mm,
You're being to your sister.
yeah,
Um, and then the last story of it is, yeah, but sometimes the 6-year-old is really intentionally picking, and the story projects into you can't treat people like that. Like she has feelings too. So there's just
yeah,
so many projections of and fear and all that gunk that I think about that I'm just like
yeah.
I'm over trying to manage that.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's not necessarily the conflict that you're over trying to manage, because conflict is always and forever a part of a healthy relationship. We want
Right.
them to be able to facilitate it. They're learning. They're still very young. And so they're
Right.
immature in their capability to navigate with integrity and honor. And it sounds like what you're really over, and let me know if this is oversimplifying your experience, you're really over what's activated in you when you step in, which is the shame toward your daughter, the fear of that, knowing where the anger is coming from, that projection of her being a mean girl. I imagine that's connected to some implicit memory, generational patterns there for you. And then the 6-year-old, you don't want her light to be squashed. You want to protect her. And then they're like, dude, you can't treat me like,
Right.
yeah. So it's complex.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Rebecca, exactly that. That I am getting exhausted with emotion coaching myself.
Your own emotional storm. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And
Exactly that.
so the desire to prevent conflict is for your children. Again, like this is a part of our responsibility in our job to set our kids up for as much success as possible, environmentally, relationally. Do they have they eaten? Can they be in the
Right.
same room together? Is it fair for me to walk out of the room knowing that they're both tired, hungry, overstimulated, whatever? And then there is the self-protective desire to prevent conflict so your system does not have to swirl around in that complicated emotional storm and then be drained by it. What's it like for you to sit in the more expansive awareness that, and this may not be brand new for you, Destiny. I know you're a pretty darn self-aware lady, but knowing like, wow, I'm trying to prevent my daughter's conflict to protect me.
It feels like the single solitary tear that keeps coming out.
Oh, I didn't see the tear. Thank you for telling me. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that it's coming. It feels good. It feels like a really good awareness um, for me that I wasn't recognizing, but also glad that I'm catching it at this point and not trying to get ahead of their behaviors. But I feel like I'm looking at it differently for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, physically, there's a part of me that needed me too. So thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm
Only on the
curious.
right side.
I know. I'm like, who's this tier? And feel free to say no to any of my invitations for reflection if you don't want to go into a deeper space. I'm wondering who's crying and why.
Mm, can you give me a second? I think probably 9-year-old Destiny is crying because she doesn't know how to navigate her own conflict and doesn't feel safe to have them.
Yeah. Would you be willing to do an exercise with me?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's very gentle. In our work as parent coaches, we're helping our clients to be able to differentiate who is parenting in any given moment. Is 9-year-old Destiny parenting right now? Or is Mama Destiny who is confident and capable and able to show up? And I'm wondering if you could take a moment, this could be internal, or you can talk it through with me, of reminding 9-year-old Destiny that she doesn't have to do any work in those moments with your daughters. She can rest. Do you sense that she's able to receive that reassurance or redirection?
She received it, but didn't believe it. She
Yeah,
stood
not yet.
down.
That makes sense. Ideally, we would be spending a good 45 minutes going a lot more slowly into that technique, but it's something that you can be in self practice with after today and keep making contact with her if she's willing to receive you. And that can be as slow as it needs to be.
Well, she, I visualize myself in my room
Yeah.
having left a conflict with my sibling and um, having been reprimanded for the conflict. And
Yeah.
I was in that room with myself. And I think what I found really helpful about that exercise wasn't necessarily that she stood down, but that
Got
I
it.
got to hear her so very loud.
There you go. That's an enormously powerful part of the process where you're showing up and holding space for her, whatever that needs to come
Mm-hmm.
through that nobody was able to offer her at that age. Yeah.
Mm. I didn't know that was there.
Mm, yeah.
I didn't know that was there. And I can see why this feels so heavy right after it happens.
Absolutely. Exhausting, draining. And of course, you're going to want to figure out how to make sure that doesn't happen so you don't have to go there and that doesn't have to be activated within you.
Mm. I never, I guess I'm interested in the next time that this happens
Yes.
instead of like talking through myself, through the feelings with myself or just like having my self calm down. But I'm interested in what the conversation with that
Mhm.
part might be like in that moment.
Yeah. Have you ever had an experience of being able to self soothe an aspect of yourself that's being activated? Because it's not destiny right now necessarily. There's aspects that's like
Yeah.
has the current day fears and projections and concerns. But if we see now that there's a root here, have you had the experience of self soothing a part in the moment?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have. Yeah,
Okay.
I definitely have. And so I think that being able to more clearly identify
Yeah, that will help you have
who
clarity.
is showing up, yeah, who's showing up in that moment.
Mm,
Um, Even if I don't right away get to the point where I'm able to do that, just being able to do what we just did, where
yeah.
I'm letting it have the floor. I mean,
Yeah.
I was like pacing in my room in my head, and just
Okay.
going off and feeling what's the word? Disempowered and like
Yeah. Mm,
betrayed, and how dare
yeah.
you?
Yeah. Let's make a leap here. So I wonder if Mama Destiny that leaves conflict with your daughters and goes and like collapses exhausted in her room actually is experiencing that betrayal and that like pacing in her bedroom. And if movement and releasing of mobilizing energy after sibling conflict is really what your body's needing, but without this clarity, you were collapsing into that dorsal vagal response. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I can imagine myself doing that after.
Because the goal isn't to make her not feel what she's feeling. Soothing isn't not getting her to feel angry and overwhelmed or exhausted by what she just experienced, but rather it's giving her space to be able to follow whatever impulses she needs to follow to 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 be able to process what just happened.
Exactly.
Mm, yeah. What's it like for you to receive? I see there's emotion in your eyes.
Um, I know that is me like processing.
Yeah.
Um, it feels like relief. I feel like that part is like present right now and
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah.
And it feels like finally I get to share that.
Yeah.
I think that anytime I have expressed any sibling frustration, it's always met with resistance.
Okay.
And so I think I've always been stuck in that, well, I'm just in my room sharing this.
Yeah.
And so I've never actually held space for it for myself.
Mhm.
So we've leaped from holding space for it for myself now, and I'm sharing it with another person at the same time. It really does.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It is a lot here.
It's a good lot. It's a good lot, but
It will need to percolate perhaps for a
it,
few days.
yeah, I think the word that I'm experiencing right now, though, is gratitude
Yeah.
for allowing me to see something that I didn't see before and allowing me to have a space to share the part of me that I don't know, maybe just has not felt even safe to share with myself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. It's very touching to witness, and I'm very proud
Mm.
and thankful. You've worked really hard to build your system and your safety up enough for these more hidden aspects of your unconscious to spontaneously come through. So we can move forward with less of a, how do I get this to stop? And what are the techniques and strategies that I need to implement for these dynamics to not happen? And we're shifting more to, how do I hold myself in the moments when conflict inevitably arises? And how do I take care of myself after I show up and hold that mediation space for my daughters? Because they're showing you they're not quite ready to do that on their own yet, although you'd like that to happen. You're still dependent on. Yeah, would you like to take a minute and just focus on breathing, let go of language, and come home to the body? I'm curious if you could set an intention, not about doing anything necessarily, but it could be. What is your intention into your day or into your week or weekend with your daughters or with yourself or both?
I think an intention moving forward um, is to stay steady in how I show up during their conflict. And when the conflict is over, to just say what's up. So that
Yeah. To check in. Yeah.
to check in. Even if
Yeah.
I don't necessarily feel activated, if there's conflict, I'm gonna check in.
That's so caring. Like, how was that for you? You okay? I know conflict is hard for you, girl.
It's literally
Yeah.
good. It's a,
You need
yes,
anything? You need a snack? You need some chocolate? You need a hug?
some zoomies probably.
Yeah. Hmm. Thank you, Destiny.
Okay, so I think this is what is so distinct and unique about our approach here at the Jai Institute for Parenting, because I just know that every parent listening is like, but what do I do about my siblings bickering with each other and
Yeah.
squabbling and hurting each other's feelings
Yeah.
and playing with power? And
Uh-huh.
the first question I want to ask is, why parent centric? Why here do parents always go first? Why, as parent coaches, do we not leap right to, well, do this and do that and try this? And have you tried that?
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite questions. And I'll preface the answer with it relishing and reveling in the tension between what we know our client needs. And I say that with humility, as in like I can be wrong in my assumption of what a client needs, but I imagine that most people are needing to be self-connected and present. So that's an assumption. The tension between what we can see a client is needing and what it is a client is wanting. And I love that because that's exactly what we're doing as parents with our children is our kids want this thing. And we're seeing that there's a deeper need here and we're helping them to be able to mature and distinguish what is it that's really needed separate from what it is that you desire and want from a place of urgency, emergency, instant gratification, and the discomfort of remaining in patience until the answer reveals itself. That is something that children are meant to be learning and practicing. And then as adults in our maturity, we have the space and the practice in our brain and body to be in the middle, to be in the gray. So we're gray activists also. And okay, second is why
Nuance
we go
ninjas.
exactly why we go parent centric first before parenting application and technique is that we are seeking congruency, meaning we're seeking the inside to match the outside. This is a science-based program. I really can't emphasize this enough. This is not our opinion. This is not our philosophy. This is not our moral or value-driven belief in how children deserve to be parented. It is the science of how a child's brain and nervous system operates. And if a parent is full of hate, rage, resentment, bitterness, irritation, annoyance, contempt, disgust, disdain, dissociation, shut down. They're saying, I just want to help you. I just want to understand. Can you just let me know what it is you need? The child doesn't hear you. It's irrelevant. What you're saying and doing. And I'll also like, whoa, caveat, that's a really extreme, intense thing for me to say. And for those in the room, myself included, where you're not in perfect congruency and you're still trying, like, of course, I would choose you trying. I just want to understand while full of frustration and irritation over stop that. How many times do I need to tell you to stop doing that? Totally get that. We also have the space to meet ourselves and where we are in our practice. But we're going for the insights matching the outside. So if a parent can come with the spaciousness to be present while holding their tool, that's the power of the tool. It's not the tool itself. It's the presence holding the tool. It is everything. So I say that if presence is met and you're holding your tool, I mean, that's your magic wand. But if you are not in presence and safety, holding a tool, that's a sword. That is a weapon. That is a source of threats. And I know that's a really big, extreme thing to say, but it's worth contemplating.
I have to pause. So what I just heard you say is even tools of peaceful parenting can be used in incongruent ways.
Absolutely. This is how
Kind of
peaceful
blew my
parenting
mind.
doesn't work because it's not matching your inside and how children move from a primitive, emotionally reactive state into a state of collaboration, cooperation, the willingness and the ability to hear you, follow your directions, have empathy and consideration for your feelings and experiences, is they must be met with connection and safety. It's not about what you're saying or doing, it's how they feel in your proximity.
We say all the time around here, peaceful parenting is not about what you do. It's about who you are.
Yeah, how you be.
How you be, and not just being as a, kind of eggshell of yourself, but like the hard-boiled bee version.
Hard-boiled egg.
We're going for hard-boiled egg parent. So all that being said, what does that look like in practice when, children, of course, are going to compete for resources. They, most adults don't have healthy conflict resolution skills. And, I've tended to believe as a parent is the way that my kids, who certainly bicker, that the way they'll learn that is by allowing them space to bicker,
Mhm.
but I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, complicated, complex question depending on age gap, temperament, neurotype, trauma history. And that's what I am the most proud of as the director of this beautiful spaceship of evolution and revolution is that we have a commitment to hold the flag that says, I don't know the answer
Mm,
for you and your child. However, as your coach, I am your teammate. So let's work together to discover the answer. There are foundational diving boards that we're all jumping off of. Like children need to feel safe, they need to feel connected. We want to be using empathy, we want to be attuning, we want to be using nonviolent communication, we want to make space for them to be heard and seen and felt. So with conflict with Destiny, I would have taken her lead and I would have offered scaffolding, as
mm,
in the education if she needed it, the perspective shift from child development if she needed it, the reminder of brain science should she have needed it. Ultimately, she's the one telling me, I'm thinking that this is what my kids are needing. I'm thinking that this is what their behavior is communicating for me. I'm thinking that this could be approach and a technique that they would really actually latch onto and that could really help them. I've never met her children. I don't know. So
mm.
it's client centric all the way. Like they're the voice of truth about what's needed.
One of the things that you said in the session is that conflict is a part of every relationship. And so it's not that we're trying to avoid conflict at all cost or bend over backwards to make sure that conflict doesn't happen, but that we increase our capacity to be in healthy conflict. And you
Yeah.
used words like integrity and I can't remember, but I was curious if you could describe healthy conflict for us because I don't think it's something that many of us even have a gateway to. Like we
Yeah, we
don't
don't.
see a lot of healthy conflict in our world.
Yeah, I think it's brand new, or we're returning to healthy conflict
Mm,
frameworks. And I'm sure that this could be morphed in 1,000 different directions, and it may be different if it's between two adults, but we're not talking about adult here. We're talking about a parent's role in children's conflict. How do we show up and hold space and facilitate and engage so our children are walking away feeling protected and cared for, but also given space for agency and autonomy and everyone is as heard and felt and seen as humanly possible in unicorn fairyland. I get it. Like siblings are fighting right as you're going out the door. And the technique available for you in that moment is stop fighting, get into the car. We're going to be late. And we have a sense of humor here, which I also adore, is that we understand that there's a variety and a diversity of capacity and context. And sometimes your tool is you guys, stop it. Get into the car. And then in the car, it's like, sorry, guys, I wasn't able to show up and support you any more than that. That's all I have. But what does it look like? It looks like being able to have an agile nervous system, meaning many of my clients hear sibling conflict and immediately they go, they're out of their mind, they're out of their body, and they're rushing into the room and saying, or they hear the bickering starting, the temperature's rising, and they freeze.
mm,
Or they hear bickering and the temperature's rising and they like, "Ah," and no judgment and shame. Those are states of regulation, coping mechanisms. I understand all of them. I do all of them. But number one is that we've developed enough associations of safety with the help of a co-regulatory facilitator, big fancy words, your coach being with you to be able to respond with presence. And then depending on the age, you need to put your body in as the boundary. So we hold a commitment to meeting our children's needs, no matter what they are, and whether or not we believe they should have them, or whether or not they're a burden or an inconvenience to us. So that means that for young kids, you saying, stop hitting him, back away, and they don't stop hitting and back away, that is not grounds for punishment or consequence. That is grounds for your facilitation. That is an invitation for you. That is not an opportunity to punish. So, okay, they are not able to follow my direction right now. What's my job next? My job is to intervene with my body. Hey, hey, hey. Or maybe you're completely quiet. I don't know your kids. And if you saying, hey, 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 will escalate them. But being able to put your body in between the conflict, or to use your words to create the separation in the conflict. Now, this is where it gets like, this could go 100 different ways. It might be in the highest service of your kids in that moment to say, please go to your room, and you please go to your room. I'm going to check in with you first. I'm going to check in with you second. Everything's going to be okay. We're just needing space. I think the best thing for us to hold is that when we enter in proximity, we have a me and my kids alongside the problem that we're working out, rather than me joining a side of a perpetrator and a victim, as if one kid is one or the other, or creating an enemy and a victim by jumping into one kid's side and you can't treat him that way. Or it might be like, hey, whoa, what's going on? What is it that happened? Wait, I'm going to hear from this child first. Hold on here. Come sit with me and I'm going to hold you, but it's this child's turn to talk. And you're just facilitating and accommodating support needs as they go. Ultimately, they need space to be heard, even if what they're saying is not true, illogical, hyperbolized, dramatized. It's just, okay, I hear you. What else? Tell me more. That makes sense. So, sister, it sounds like big sister is saying this. Do you hear her? It sounds like she's really needing this from you. I do that. Okay, sounds like she's not up for that. So, what do we do, guys? There's two different wants here, two different needs. This is an opportunity for us to get creative. Yeah, you have space. You have space to be there. You have space to see. You have space to hear. And you have space to collaborate and problem solve. This is our peace process.
It is our peace process. And
It is.
you can get our peace process.
Yeah.
And I taught it, remember? Like 87 years ago, it feels like.
What'd my hair look like?
It was like, you always have good hair.
It's always changing.
You can grab that on our website under parenting, under resources, and then parenting, and it's free. The peace course, PEACE, presence, empathy. Anyway, you'll learn. It's so cool. And you can learn this process. You're welcome. Rebecca, we could go on for a day.
I know, I really could.
I know. Well, and nothing like the future.
Okay.
More. If there were any big takeaways from your conversation with Destini, that you'd like to share this in closing, what would it be? What would they be?
I would invite parents to notice the compulsive need to have the perfect solution, and believing that that's going to be the answer, rather experimenting with the possibility that whenever there's an experience in my brain and body that's like, I just had the perfect tool and technique and strategy, if I just knew more, that is code red for me, that I need to turn inward and I need to get curious about what will it take for me to be able to show up in these moments with a little bit more resilience. And one more. The natural consequence of children raised in power over or under authoritarian or permissive is a fragmentation from their core emotional needs and a hyperfixation on practical, pragmatic strategies. So to allow yourself to be supported by someone who can see the deeper doorways for growth and change that your current wiring doesn't have access to seeing. And it's not selfish or ridiculous or crazy for you to receive support in your parenting. It's simply where we're at in humanity. We're in the midst of a great change and we're meant to band together and be together through it.